Good afternoon and welcome. You're listening live to Heart-to-Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist offering today's program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News, along with my wonderful friend and business partner, Dr. Robert Jaffe.
Hi.
Hello.
So I'm Robert Jaffe. I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified hypnotherapist. We're here to share with you some of what we've learned over many years of study and practice on how to be more loving and joyful every day of our lives. Today's program is going to be focused on relationships and sexuality. And we believe here that we are born into the world as our loving, authentic, true selves. Some of the qualities we come in with are openness. We come in honest. We come in sexual. We come in trusting that the world will be a good place for us to be. And we have the capacity to have other qualities available, such as being calm, being emotionally available and connected with others. And we can also be confident, and we can also be very compassionate, which is the key in all loving relationships, is compassion.
That's so wonderful and beautiful. And we're going to talk about that for sure today. And as well as in every episode that we have here, I'd like to invite you all to please contact us, ask your questions, because this program belongs to you. And we thank you ahead of time for sharing your hour with us. Our phone number here is 951-922-3532, 951-922-3532. You can also visit us at our YouTube at Heart-2-Heart.online/YouTube. So, Dr. Robert, we're hearing a lot in the news, all over the news that unfortunately, the COVID-19 is the number of people who are exposed to it is increasing at a skyrocketing rate. And so there was a time that the focus was on elderly population and those who were potentially in a physical condition that they could, become exposed to this virus. So they were talking about, being overweight or have other medical conditions, right?
Which are still true.
Which are still true, right? And they haven't changed, obviously. But they were saying that, young people are exempt. Children definitely are not going to get it. But I just heard on the news that the youngest patient who passed away was a 9-year-old recently.
Wow.
Right? I just saw it on CNN News, and that's heartbreaking. So young people, we see that they're getting it. And so it's becoming a very kind of confusing time for people, those that they are able to stay together and they are healthy and they want to keep intimacy and they want to keep their sexual relationship. They are kind of, now I hear it from my clients that they're afraid that whether they should have sex with each other or not, even if, they know that they're not, kind of exposed to the virus. I have a couple, they actually test each other like every 2 weeks they go and get a testing because they are so afraid. What if they have sex and what if one of them is asymptomatic and the other one doesn't know, right? And I hear from the other ones that they have decided totally not to have sex. And there are ones that they say, but I cannot have sex, right? So ultimately, all of them, all the groups, whether they are having sex or whether they are testing and then having sex or decided not to have sex, and those who are apart from their, sexual partner, and those that they don't have a sexual partner at all, it is this fear factor behind their mind that what are we supposed to do with our sexual needs?
Right.
Right?
Right.
And from the articles that I'm getting about, safe sex and everything during this pandemic, and these articles, even, I have one about UK and how people in UK have decided, to take care of themselves when it comes to their sexual needs.
What does the article say?
Well, yeah, I'm going to go over that.
Oh, okay.
Right? I'm going to go over that. But then again, at the same time, we are looking at how every day we're finding how important our knowledge about being exposed is essential before we even think about having sex, right? For example, I'm looking at this article that is from the Annals of Internal Medicine, American College of Physicians. This was published in May 7th, so that's fairly new, right? It says that the evidence that they have suggests that having sexual contact carries transmission risks, right?
Yes.
So it's not just that whether there was a prior article before this one that suggested that, coronavirus can continue to live in a male sperm even after they are recovered, or on those that they are asymptomatic, right? This article adds to that. It actually says that there are traces of coronavirus within the urine of the individuals. There are also evidence that the coronavirus can continue to live in the stool of the individuals, right? Not to mention that in their respiratory situation and all of that. So, and they still don't know if this is a sort of a sexual transmitted disease or a sexual transmitted infection, right? They are, while they are saying, let's kind of think twice about having in-person sex, right? But then again, there are questions about psychological effect of not having abstinence, right? How do you take care of that, right? And then what are the risk factors, if you have it? So, and how to take care of this? So there are many suggestions all over these articles that how one can have sex, but then again, all of them collectively starts with the first notice that came about, from New York Department of Health when they first introduced, having sex. Your safest sex partner
is yourself.
Yourself,
right? Which
they refer to masturbation.
Yes.
Right. And after that, there have been so many questions about masturbation. They are
questions by whom?
People,
well,
right?
Whom? What do you mean? Questions.
General population, from what we hear, from the email that we get, from the clients that we talk about, from people that they're not, my clients, from all the colleagues that they post information online about their findings on LinkedIn, on other social medias, on other podcasts, and all of that I receive.
And what are these questions?
The questions are: is masturbation so far has been a concept that, while it's been easy for modern generation, right? Not that it didn't exist across the history, but people did it in hiding. There has always been shame, fear, guilt, and several myths associated with that, right?
Which I think is not just unique to masturbation. For the most part, people have hidden their sexual lives from other people.
Right.
Except, in joking ways or, alluding to things. But people generally don't share their sexual thoughts, feelings, or activities with other people.
Usually they don't. And then whatever happens between couples, is private. And also sex primarily has been considered for procreation, so not just as a concept of joy or intimacy or fun.
Well,
or
especially
like
in Orthodox religions.
Right, right. And that goes global, so it's not just unique to one religion.
Correct.
Right. There are some religions that they have taboo concepts and beliefs about masturbation.
Yes.
Right. So we see that when we say go ahead and masturbate according to all these articles, they lead to that. They say that masturbation is the safest way of having sex during this time, right? So people kind of become surprised at how suddenly a concept that's been a myth of the society is not being recommended as okay to do. And it's actually, openly people talk about it. Openly, people like you and I talk about masturbation as a solution and as a method that it doesn't have all the negativity attached to it. And we are introducing it as a healthy thing to do right now.
Well, we are introducing it as a healthy thing because of what we know about it as psychotherapists and as researchers.
Exactly.
We know that physiologically, it's a great way of relieving stress, and it's a great way of feeling good. As long as you're doing it without guilt and shame. If you're doing it and you have guilt and shame about it, then of course it's not so healthy.
Right.
But the other thing about it is that masturbation, although we are recommending it, you and I were just talking before about the difference when you're having sex with a partner, that there's a synergy, there's an energy of both of you that you bring together. The two energies mixed together are greater than either one of you can do by themselves. So although masturbation is certainly the safest way, and certainly physiologically the best solution in terms of the pandemic, it still doesn't help people with the feeling of connection and warmth and love and intimacy that actually having sex with a partner does.
Well, that's true. I mean, masturbation doesn't really address that aspect of intimacy, unfortunately. But then again, you asked me a question about how people in UK do it,
yes.
Right? So what people in UK have decided to do is, we see that per this article, only of course 40% of UK adults, is focusing on masturbation, right? So our commercial break is
about
to come up,
yeah.
Right? So why don't we talk about
we're going to talk about the UK study,
the UK study and other studies, and what are some of the myths about masturbation, and whether you want to decide to take action about this or whatever you feel about it.
Exactly.
Right?
And we encourage you to keep calling us.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So our phone number is 951-922-3532. See you shortly after our commercial break. Welcome back from our commercial break. For those of you just tuning us, today's program is about how to have sex during this pandemic and how to stay safe and how to maintain intimacy while you also take care of yourself. And so please call us at 951-922-3532. This program belongs to you and we want to hear from you. You can also visit us at YouTube at Heart-2-Heart. I don't know why I don't remember this address. Heart-2-Heart.online/YouTube. So, Dr. Robert, we were talking about, how people in UK have come to terms to take care of themselves. right? The guideline that's being provided to us pretty much is similar to the guideline that we have here. There is really not a significant difference. So the general focus has been on, doing basic stuff so that you can maintain the social isolation, or actually I should say physical isolation. I like that one better, that term. So going shopping for basic necessaries, right? Like food and medicine, and then don't do that as often as possible, right? So do it maybe once a week and try to stay indoor. The other one is to have one form of exercise a day. And they're not suggesting to go for really hardcore exercises, but exercises like simple walking around the neighborhood, biking, things that you can do by yourself, that you don't need other people to join you, right? Which we do here as well, right? And if there are any medical needs, try to stay on top of it, try to do it virtual if possible, or if necessary, then go in. And so basically, what the focus is on minimal physical contact with other people.
Correct.
Correct, which is what we do here as well. The other thing that, they focus on what are the consequences of social distancing and isolation, right? And as people become anxious, become angry, become stressed, agitated, withdraw, and all of that, right? It also not having sex. They focus on that it has physical consequences. So some of that, especially for people that their body is kind of prone to that, it already has some initial conditions, existing conditions there, right? Like cardiovascular problems, like diabetic, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, mental illnesses, and bladder and bowel problems. So not having sex can actually accelerate those problems within a person, increase it.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So what they do, they define sexual activity as sexual intercourse, masturbation, kind of fondling with each other, and petting each other. So there is a choice between the four, right? However, those who are not married, and the statistic shows only 40% of adult population right now is sexually active in UK, right? For those who are not...
Wait, you can't let that one go. What is that? What did you say?
Yeah, they said, according to this, only 40% of UK adults sexually active while socially distancing. I know. Okay. Isn't that interesting?
Okay. Well, it's an interesting...
Yeah, and that comes from the Journal of Sexual Medicine, which is on the May 14th.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know how that statistic came to be.
I guess many have decided really to take that social distancing way too serious.
Well, what you're saying is more than half the population don't have sex.
Don't have sex.
That's pretty hard to believe, but okay. That's what the article says.
I didn't write the article.
I'm not saying you did. I'm just saying that's hard to believe. That's all.
I know. Yeah. I know that's hard to believe, but we rely on the research and we rely on the statistic that they provide us, and I trust Journal of Sexual Medicine.
I again, it's hard for me to conceptualize that because because sexuality is so much a part of who we are that I wonder about a statistic like that. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, it's hard to believe that people are able to hold back that they want to. That they want to, and something that is so big, right? Yeah. So what we know is that among these forms of sexual activity, two forms are active. One is intercourse between couples who have been living together or they have been married, and then the other one are looking at masturbation, right? So masturbation, so they can do it individually by themselves, right? Or if they have a partner, they do it virtually actually too.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So virtual masturbation is something that, not that it didn't exist, but definitely has gained so much more attention during pandemic.
Right.
As a way of not only connecting with partners, right, online, but also have a sense of, somebody is there, some closeness together, and then actually also learning about each other during masturbation, what works for one, what doesn't work for one. They can understand more about each other virtually. So I guess the main point is that everything is going online, so masturbation too is online these days. And I see that as a healthy choice, definitely. I like to recommend that to those people that they have had concern about how to masturbate, during pandemic, and what they need to do and how to do it, right? The only concern that I want to bring up during this online masturbation is to be aware of some risk factors that, of course, they are not about sexually transmitted disease or sexual transmitted infection, but about the recording of sessions, the recording of the episode of masturbation, whether somebody is recording that online and then distribute that to other people, right? Or they are taking pictures without the consent of each other and they are putting that online, or if there is a privacy at the place where masturbation is done, because things can happen if we are not careful about our surrounding, or if we don't know the person at the other side, or we don't have that ultimate connection with them and the level of trust, things can get out of hand.
Correct.
And we have seen that this information, it can have very high consequences for people, right? But other than that, they're extremely recommending that. And then some couples also have started to try masturbation, those couples that they haven't done masturbation before, or they have thought, and this is not about UK, I'm just coming back to here, that, okay, so that now that there is so much talk about masturbation, let's see how that works in our relationship, right? So masturbation is growing, and I'm glad to see that, because all the myths about masturbation as a sinful act, as a act that is not good for people to do, and there's shame and guilt and fear associated with that, is kind of fades away,
Right.
And that's the beauty of growth. I don't know, we needed pandemic to kind of normalize masturbation at the general public so people can talk about it openly, but at least I can say, if one thing positive about human sexuality has come up during this pandemic, is that sex is not just limited to intercourse. Correct. Right.
Yeah, sex is the reason I'm sort of skeptical of that kind of statistic is because our sexuality is totally connected with our being human. It's not only is a powerful drive, it's also a way that we feel our aliveness. And so what we don't want to do is we don't want to demonize sex and tell people that sex is too dangerous, because that takes the fun out of it, right?
Exactly.
So we want to do it, and I want to say something also about fear, that there's one thing to be cautious, and it's another thing to be afraid, and it's a third thing to be really afraid or paranoid. And the more fear that we carry within ourselves, the more what the fear does is it releases cortisol and other chemicals in the brain, which inhibit our ability to fight off infection. And so the key really is to not walk around being afraid. The key is to walk around being mindful and taking precautions, but also recognizing that it's important for us to feel our freedom. And I think that's a lot of what the stress is about with people, is they feel a lack of freedom because all the businesses and beaches are shut down, and they feel like, oh, they're trapped now. They don't have the freedom. And we always have freedom, and we always have the freedom to choose. And as long as we're mindful and making choices which we think are reasonably safe, because nothing is totally safe, right? You could be sitting in your office and all of a sudden, a toilet falls through an airplane and goes through your building. You never know, So nothing is totally safe. And even with the pandemic, although there are a lot of cases and although there are a lot of deaths, percentage-wise in terms of our population, it's still very, very tiny. So we don't want to walk around going, oh, I'm afraid to take a breath here, and I'm afraid, of getting too close to someone. Because I see people walking around and they have masks and they go out of their way not to get close to somebody on the street when they're both wearing masks. And of course, it's up to you if you want to do that. But I think it starts to border on the paranoia part rather than the mindful part, that we just want to be reasonable.
Actually, today, as on my way to the office, at the stoplight, I just, looked at the car next to me, right? Mm-hmm. And I saw this lady, and that's exactly, following your point. She was having, this was very interesting, she was having one mask that was covering half of her neck all the way to her upper lip.
Yes.
And then she had another one on top of it, which was covering everything below her eyes, all the way below her chin. Right. So she was wearing a double mask together.
Yeah.
And then she also had her hair covered in another form of like a medical wrap.
Right.
And she was wearing gloves, white gloves, and then she was wearing a plastic gloves on top of that.
Yeah.
And so that's a good example of being paranoid about how to take care of yourself. And then she had all of her windows rolled up, right? And then she was wearing glasses on top of all of that. And I couldn't stop, looking at her because to me, my God, what a suffering she was going through.
Yes. Yeah. And so we still have the ability to connect with other people. And we're so lucky that we live now in an age where we have ways of connecting like we're doing right now on the radio, and we can see ourselves in the computer and other people can see us and hear us. And this is a way of connecting. And it's important also to recognize that as human beings, we need touch. So it's important to be able to touch other people. And I'm not talking sex now. I'm just talking about touching the other person. And is it totally safe? No, nothing is totally safe. But touching another person, and especially if neither one of you are symptomatic, is a way of reassuring and also soothing the other person. We all need touch. In fact, there's been a number of studies done about infants who have been given up and go into nursing facilities, and they are cared for in terms of they have enough food to eat and they're warm enough, but they don't get touched. And they start to suffer and can actually die. They're called failure to thrive babies. And so it's important for us to recognize that as much as we want to be mindful and safe, we also want to celebrate the fact that we have other ways of connecting and being with other people, and it's so important to do that, to be with other people.
Right. And one other people, for those who are not able to touch each other, is verbal, empathic, compassionate communication together.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So if you are unable to actually physically be close to your loved ones, to your partner, to your spouse, to whomever you're sexually active with, right? You can do that virtually. You can, exchange nice, loving, kind, empathic, compassionate, passionate words with each other, right?
Yes.
And that's another way of actually getting to know each other. And you can use online, do virtual masturbating together. You can coach each other through masturbation.
Yes.
So there are so many fun things that actually can occur, can happen. And that's another way of, getting to know each other as human being, as your partner, as your lover, any relationship that you have. Masturbation online can be a fun way of and a different way of getting to know each other and come closer, and it's disease free, that's for sure.
It's
Right?
disease
It's
free.
disease free.
Yeah.
And of course, the privacy and confidentiality needs to be maintained, and consent needs to be a part of that. And let's talk about the myths of masturbation after we come back from our commercial break.
And I also want to share a little bit about how our energy affects ourselves and others, and how we exchange energy with each other, and how we can do that in a way that makes us feel more connected.
Absolutely. So more of this after commercial break. This pandemic as a healthy sexual choice, so that your sexuality doesn't suffer because of the social distancing. So there are so many myths and beliefs, misconceptions about masturbation. And at this time, I'm going to go over some of them, and to see where you are with those myths, and if you have additional ones, or if you have a different one. I like to hear from that. I like to hear from you and learn about what is the myth that you have that I didn't include that, in the discussion that I'm going to be having in a minute. So yes, masturbation is safer than any other type of sex. And the good thing about it is that you're not going to get pregnant, right? And you're not going to get any sexual transmitted diseases, right? And also, when you masturbate with your partner, you learn about, what you like sexually and what you don't. You're going to be learning about your sensitive part of your body and how you want to be touched, how you want to be understood, how you want to proceed, and what's your level of comfort and what is not, right? So you're learning about all the do's and don'ts that, involves in sexuality, about yourself, about your partner. And Dr. Jaffe, please feel free to disagree with me or agree with me or comment in, right? It's a time that, one can explore about, their bodies. You can do that, learn about yourself, learn about your pleasure. And it is because, why I say that, because in the past, I have heard that when people try to learn and explore about their sexuality, they have done that with some level of shame, some level of discomfort, right? Especially for women. But the reality is that this is the best way to get to know yourself, get to know your body, and get to know your level of comfort. Also, masturbation lowers stress. It helps people to relax, and also helps some people to even actually have a better night's sleep.
That's true.
Right.
And of course, by lowering stress, you increase your immune system.
Right.
So it actually does help you to have sexual release.
Right.
We're talking about in the context of masturbation, but any kind of sexual release creates endorphins in the brain, which flow throughout the body, and energize every cell of your body, which creates more resistance to opportunistic diseases. And what I wanted to comment on, and I commented on at the very end of our last segment, is that we are energy. That's the thing that makes our bodies move around and some bodies not move around, okay? Because the bodies that don't move around, the energy is gone from the body, and we can call that death. But each individual has a certain energy frequency, and the frequency that we vibrate at is indicative of our feeling state at any given moment. And we all know this, those of us who have children can recognize in our children, and often in our mates, and often with our friends, simply by the first word that comes out of their mouth, exactly how they're feeling. And we can tell if they're feeling happy, relaxed, excited. We can tell if they're feeling sad. We can feel if they're stressed. We can tell if they're feeling nervous or scared. And other people can feel our energy, and we can feel their energy. And what our sexuality does when we engage in sexual activity without any guilt or shame attached to it is it energizes us in a positive way. And so that's the kind of energy that we want to have for ourselves, but also it affects everybody around us. So being afraid is a negative energy, and it's inhibiting, and that affects everyone around us. And being relaxed and being carefree and being happy and looking at the glass as half full, that affects everybody around us. So our work on this planet is to be a force for good. I think most people will agree with that, and certainly a force for good with ourselves and with the people that we care about the most. But our energy is not limited in time and space, and therefore, whenever we are feeling positive or whenever we're feeling negative, that energy goes out into the universe and affects everybody. And we don't recognize that. We think it's simply limited to the people that we are surrounding ourselves with. But actually, it goes out to everyone. It goes out to the people that we surround ourselves with most profoundly, but it doesn't. But it also affects everyone. And so, being more positive and more loving and caring and joyous is our work while we're here, and especially being more loving. Because to quote many of the great philosophers, love is the only thing that can overcome fear. More fear does not ever work to eliminate fear.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I just wanted to comment on that.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's very well taken and very deep and very emphatically said. And people, about masturbation, they ask if they can get diseases or infection. The reality is you won't get any diseases, but infection, yes, there is a possibility, and that is if you're using any form of sex toy, they need to be sanitized, they need to be clean, and of course, covering them with condom is always recommended, so that especially females, so they don't get any infection. So I like to kind of, I have a list of what are some of the myths that some of them we have talked about them, but I'm just going to go over them. And I think these are very interesting myths and very interesting beliefs. And in looking at them, they are actually globally believed.
Global beliefs, yes.
And it's just it's interesting that how we come from different cultures, different religious background, different political, beliefs, different in many ways. But then again, when it comes to our sex and sexuality, we land on the same area.
Right.
Isn't that, to me, that's really profound and that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I'm learning about human sexuality, and believe me, I'm still a very student in this field, even though I call myself a sexologist. But the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know much actually about human sexuality, and that's how deep this subject is. And to me, it's really interesting to see that how globally we have more common beliefs than we don't.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that goes along with my own philosophy, which is that human beings are much, much, much more alike than we are not alike. And yet we tend to focus on the ways we're different and create fears for each other.
Exactly.
For
but
ourselves.
we seldom look at our commonalities.
Correct.
Which I think if we do that, we can see a world that is more friendly, more pleasurable, more pleasant to live in together.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the very first one. Is masturbation bad? Well, the answer to that is no, right? But what can be bad about it? Really, it's part of it's part of sexuality, right?
Right.
Can girl masturbate? Well, yes. Now there have been many times that masturbation for girls were far more sinful, shameful, and guilty.
You mean looked at it
that way?
Yes.
Right. So then no, girls couldn't have masturbate, but yes, it's definitely appropriate as much as it is for guys, it is for girls too, right? Can masturbation cause delayed period for women? Absolutely not. I mean, masturbation is like having sex. Is any other form of sex going to cause any delay for female to have, delayed period? No,
Right.
absolutely not.
Yeah, unless, of course, the girl gets pregnant, and then it does delay the period for a long, long time.
By masturbation?
Not by masturbation, no.
Right, because there is no sperm,
Right.
Delivered or developed anywhere, right? Can masturbation prevent having an erection for men? No, as a matter of the same way that men get their erection during intercourse or any other form of sex they have, masturbation also does the same thing, right? As a matter of fact, through masturbation, men can actually have more erection because they are in charge of and they're in control of their sex activity at the moment, and it's all about them, so they go all the way and they have fun with it, so they may even have a better erection than any other time. The other question is, can masturbation damage genitals? No. The damage that can cause to genital is the same damage, if any, if the actual intercourse is going to happen, right? So that's as far as it may go, if any, right? I don't know about any kind of a damage. The only damage that I can think about happens to a genital is loss of virginity.
Well,
yeah.
Of course, we're talking about. You said there can be the misuse of sex toys.
Right, misuse of sex toys.
And if you're not, and if you're using a sex toy and it's not comfortable,
right,
the discomfort is a sign that something is off.
Right, and if the sex is done in an aggressive way, it can cause genital problems. But we're not looking at that within this context, right?
Right.
So is masturbating dirty? No. What could be dirty about it? I mean, dirty in terms of the philosophy of masturbation, or dirty in terms of the physical reactions, or dirty in terms of, I mean, no matter how you look at it, there is no dirtiness that can be attached to it unless it's a cultural belief or it's a religious belief.
Or unless you're masturbating in a mud bath.
Or in a mud bath, right?
Right.
If your fantasy takes you there, so you need to be careful, right?
Okay. Then it may be dirty if the mud is dirty.
Right. Can masturbation cause any form of acne? I don't know how that ever is possible, that masturbation can cause any form of acne.
That was a very common misbelief.
Right.
When I was a kid, was that you would get warts on your hand.
Right.
Right, and acne.
Yeah. So the next one, and I have heard that many times. Can masturbation make you blind? So, I have not. Whomever developed this belief, this myth, must have been brilliant, because for sure, for centuries, people were kind of fearful about masturbating. Not that they didn't do it.
Yeah.
They did it, but each time they had a fear of, what if I go blind this time? So, okay, well, wait for the next time. This time I'm going to do it, and I'll wait to see then what happens the next time. Right?
Well, no, there's a joke that goes along with that. And that is that the parent was telling the child, if you masturbate, you can go blind. And the child looked at the parent and says, well, can I do it at least until I need glasses? Right.
So the other one, is it okay to masturbate if you are in a relationship? Well, I would say 100% go for it. Because this is how you get to know each other sexually in a different, that doesn't involve intercourse. You're actually getting to know person's sexuality, sexual wants, sexual desires, discomforts, fantasies, everything that you don't know about the person. Let them masturbate, help them with masturbation, get involved with the masturbation, so the two of you can get to know each other. Let's see, what else is there? Can masturbation make me unable to have sex? Well, as a matter of fact, it's definitely, it can be used as a form of a, foreplay. So
Yeah.
there is
Yeah.
a lot that we want to say about, masturbation. Ultimately, I believe is that use it, enjoy it, and that's your safest bet during Corona. And until the next best option comes up, which I can't think of anything, I don't know of any other thing. But I'd like to invite you at this point to please join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., where Dr. Jaffe offers you another episode about addictions,
addiction, codependency, relationships, and trauma.
And trauma, yes, thank you. And then, there is so much to learn, and all of these, both programs are so interrelated. So we may even bring up sex tomorrow, or I may bring up addictions in my next show, which is on Thursday. So until tomorrow and next Thursday, same time, 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock tomorrow. Don't forget, all you need is love. Enjoy your 4th of July. Stay safe. Stay inside. Enjoy your barbecue indoor.
Love, love, love. Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful afternoon.